And a pleasant good day, everyone. I am Willie Martin, aka Mr. Will, high atop the upper levels of the press box here at Energy Stadium, what was once known as Reliance Stadium, where earlier today you had the Houston Texans meeting up with the Buffalo Bills. Two teams with a lot of history. If you go back to the old AFL days prior to the merger, names like Cookie Gilchrist and Jack Kemp, or even a George Blanda, if you will, back in the day. Back then, a lot of high-scoring affairs. Not so today. In fact, the Houston Texans would fall behind early 10-0 as the offense was having difficulty getting started on this particular day before a crowd of 71,756. Minus yardage rushing leading into the half. In fact, Buffalo jumped out to a 10-0 lead early. Sammy Watkins getting a 5-yard pass from E.J. Manuel. Nothing going right for the Houston Texans. Ryan Fitzpatrick getting picked off twice early. And then right before we got to the end of the first half, we saw a little tinge of fireworks with the Houston Texans, in which Ryan Fitzpatrick got the running game going. 37-yard pass to DeAndre Hopkins. That made it a 10-7 score right before the half, and you finally heard some cheering and yelling in this building. And then to start the second half, and kind of a historic moment, because you know what J.J. Watt can do when he's playing and he's on his game. He begins the second half getting this building in an absolute roar and turning the momentum of the game by picking off a 3rd-and-3 pass attempt by E.J. Manuel, runs it back 80 yards for a touchdown to give the Texans a lead they would not lose. That then made it 14-10. Watch your highlight reel tonight, because it truly was a thing of beauty. And then after that, you had a couple of field goals made by Ryan Bullock, from 50 and 55 yards out. And I cannot for the life of me remember the last time a Houston kicker kicked field goals from that distance to make a difference in the game. It got to actually 3 field goals. Make that for Mr. Bullock. 23-17 was your final score. It got to 20-10 early in the fourth period before we saw a breakdown defensively for the Texans, and there was an 80-yard strike that was made by Michael Williams from the arm of E.J. Manuel. One play, 80 yards, took all of 13 seconds before Bullock's kick would seal things late in the game at 4:49. To recap the scoring, a 31-yard field goal by Carpenter for Buffalo, 13 plays, 67 yards at 6:13. 5:54, Sam Watkins 5-yard pass from E.J. Manuel will then make it 10-0. That at 5:54. And then right before the half, you saw DeAndre Hopkins catch a 35-yard pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick. That made it 10-7, 8 plays, 80 yards, all of 2.5 minutes. It then became 14-10. We're at 13:28. J.J. Watt made the 80-yard pick for a touchdown. Bullock extra kick was good. Bullock from 41, 55, and 50 yards. That made it 23-17 in favor of the Texans. Michael Williams, that final catch, 80-yard pass from E.J. Manuel. Now, I went to the locker room afterwards. We spoke to about 12 to 13 different Houston Texans players. They're playing the Cowboys next week, who, as I'm speaking and recording this right now, are going to get ready to play the New Orleans Saints down or up in Arlington for the Sunday night game on NBC. Noon game next week. We know the history between the Texans and Dallas goes back to opening night, September 9th, 2002 here. A game the Texans won 19-10, but Dallas has won the last 3 meetings, so you would think that this would probably favor the Cowboys when meeting up next week. If they beat the Saints tonight, I'm really not so sure. I know that for the first time since, 2012, the Texans have a better winning record than last year. They're 3-1 to start off after 4 weeks. They've already exceeded their win total from last year. Bill O'Brien commented about how, even though they trailed at the half, they're going to come back and make something special happen. And the number one topic of discussion amongst the players in the locker room post-game was how much of a playmaker and a difference maker J.J. Watt is when his game is on. They'll give you 100 million reasons as to why J.J. Watt is as good as he is. I want to see him match up with Tyron Smith with the Cowboys next week. That's about, what, 250 million reasons to see 2 Warriors go at it in a good all-Texas showdown, if you will. Once again, the final score was 23-17 in favor of the Houston Texans. They improved to 3-1. Spiller, 15 yards running, 15 carries for 16 yards. Jackson had 7 for 33. Fitzpatrick had 6 for 14. Blue, 9 for 9. Rushing for the Texans, not their key point today. 25 of 37 passing for Ryan Fitzpatrick, 268 yards. He had 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown. E.J. Manuel, 21 of 44 for 225 yards with 2 interceptions. Passer ratings of 59.4 and 75.1. Ugh. Receiving, give the honors to Andre Johnson, 7 for 71 yards. DeAndre Hopkins, 5 for 64. Overall, 268 for the Texans, 225 for the Buffalo Bills. Interceptions, give one to Bradham and McKelvin for Buffalo, and then Watt and Morris for the overall for the Houston Texans. And that about wraps things up here. Crowd of 71,576 saw a good defensive battle initially. 82 degrees outside, 72 in comfy indoors here inside of Energy Stadium. I am Willie Martin on behalf of DFW Sports Online, here today covering the Houston Texans and the Buffalo Bills. Texans win. They are now 3-1. They come to Arlington next week for a noon matchup with the Dallas Cowboys. Will this be a battle of 3-1 teams? I'm going to guess no, but I think that the Texans find a way to win this thing next week. So there you have it. I'm Mr. Willie Martin. Thanks for hopping on board. Thanks for hanging with me. We'll do this again very soon.